Part 1/4, The Envelope. The laughter in the ballroom snapped like a violin string. Crystal glasses chimed, the band glided through a Sinatra standard, and my son Jacob was beaming at the head table beside his new bride. Then my husband stood, raised his glass, and said, "Before the night ends, I need to be honest. Evelyn, this is the end for us. I've met someone." 100 conversations died mid-sentence. The chandeliers went cold. Somewhere, a fork touched porcelain and kept ringing. I sat very still in my slate-blue dress, hands folded in my lap. 36 years of marriage, and Thomas Hale had chosen our son's wedding reception to announce his freedom, not a slip of the tongue, a performance. Beside the cake table, his assistant, Renee Pike, smiled with the kind of small, private smile that's meant to look accidental. Everyone turned to me, waiting for tears, rage, a scene. Instead, I stood, smoothed the napkin on the table, and spoke softly into the hush. "Thank you for the clarity, Thomas." Then I set a white envelope in front of him and rested my fingertips on it for exactly one breath. His confidence flickered. He didn't open it, not yet. But I'd already seen the moment land, like a tide turning in a moon you can't quite see. "My name is Evelyn Brooks. I'm 60 years old. For 3 decades I worked as a back-office manager at Riverside Credit Union, the kind of job that teaches you 2 things: patterns never lie, and paper remembers. I baked on the side for church fundraisers and the VFW hall. Told myself someday I'd open a bakery with a blue door and a bell that sang when people walked in. Someday has a way of waiting for permission. Thomas was a talker, a starter of ideas, a collector of hobbies. Motorcycles 1 year, craft bourbon the next. A watercolor set that lived in our garage for exactly 11 days. I kept the mortgage current, filed the taxes, balanced the numbers. "You're the steady one," he liked to say, half praise, half camouflage. 6 months before the wedding, I spotted the first ripple. A round number transfer, $600, to an account I didn't recognize. Perfectly explainable. Tires, he said. Then $900 helping a buddy, and a $1,240 charge at a boutique hotel downtown that did not, to my knowledge, sell tires. I didn't confront him. Not then. I did what women like me do when we've been the record keepers a very long time. I documented. At work, I ran reports anyone could run if they had the patience, public records, not secrets. At home, I took photographs of statements, printed email receipts, screenshotted late-night messages when he left his phone to charge on the kitchen counter. And when I opened the safe deposit box to double-check our wills, I took out the prenuptial agreement he'd insisted on when we married. He'd been burned once and wanted safety on paper. Clause 14, B, infidelity, ironclad, no sunset date. Interesting, I remember thinking. Paper remembers. 2 weeks later, a message slid across his lock screen while he watered the azaleas. "Renee, after Jacob's wedding, we can finally breathe. Condo has a view. I picked a red dress for tonight, just for you." He came back in humming. I set a lemon tart on the cooling rack and let the steam fog my glasses until everything looked far away and manageable. I don't believe in revenge. I believe in order. So I made an appointment with Annika Shah, a family law attorney with the posture of a violin bow and a voice that never rose above conversational. "You brought me a case, Mrs. Brooks," she said, leafing through the binder I'd built. "Most people bring suspicions." "We're not doing theatrics," I told her. "I want the law. And a clean kitchen when this is done." She smiled with the corners of her eyes. "You'll have both." We filed at 8:03 a.m. on the morning of the wedding. Temporary orders, freeze joint accounts, protect the house, notify counsel. The envelope I placed by Thomas's plate was not a threat. It was a timetable. In the corridor outside the ballroom, he caught my arm. What is this? Reality, I said. The prenup's outdated, he snapped. It won't hold. Clause 14b has no expiration, I said. Neither does the truth. He stared at me like I'd learned a language he didn't know I'd been studying. Enjoy the cake, Thomas, I said. You'll need the sugar. I didn't cry in the elevator. I pressed my palm to the brass rail and felt the building hum around me, like a hive finally aware of its queen. Part 2/4. Paper and people gossip travels faster than any certified letter. By Monday, 3 friends had called with tentative voices. Are you okay? Do you want to talk? I told each one the same thing. I'm making bread this afternoon. If you stop by, I'll send you home with 2 loaves. People mean well, but flour means better. Thomas moved into a short-term rental by the river. Renee did not follow him. It took me exactly 9 days to learn that a woman who loves a secret often loves comfort more. Without access to our joint funds, comfort shrank. Meanwhile, discovery began. You're the ideal client, Annika said, setting my binder between us like a chessboard. But I need one more thing, context from inside his office. Anyone willing to speak? I thought of Mark Hale, Thomas's younger brother, who'd hugged me after the wedding with the unsteady dignity of a decent man caught in a bad play. I called him and asked for coffee. I suspected, he admitted, staring at his hands. I walked past the conference room 2 months ago and saw them, too close. He told me I imagined it. You didn't, I said. You don't have to choose me. You do have to choose truth. He nodded. I'll give a statement. At night, when the quiet felt too large, I baked. Butter softened on the counter like a promise. Cinnamon braided the air. I wrote lists, what to cancel, what to keep, what to give away because it was never actually mine. Jacob and his wife stopped by on Thursdays. They didn't ask questions that would make me answer with pain. We watched old home videos on mute and narrated our own gentle captions. On Sundays, my daughter Lauren called from grad school and told me about a professor who still used chalk. It squeaks, Mom, she said, laughing, like the 90s never ended. We didn't talk about her father. We didn't have to. Thomas tried a different tone, emails that began with Evelyn for the sake of the kids, and ended with "this doesn't have to be ugly." He suggested amicable terms. He suggested we split things fairly and move on like adults. I replied once, "That's exactly what I'm doing." 2 weeks before the first hearing, Annika called. Opposing counsel is floating a narrative, midlife crisis, mutual drift, soft separation. They'll say there was no affair until after paper remembers, I said. It does, she agreed, but people persuade. We'll need a person I didn't expect, the receptionist. She was 24 with a neat ponytail and a name badge that said JESS. She requested a meeting at a coffee shop 3 blocks from Thomas's office. I can't testify to anything private, she said, twisting the cardboard sleeve on her cup. But the card statements? He put flowers on the corporate AMEX twice and a weekend at the Brighton. He coded it client development. There was no client. Why tell me? I asked gently. My mother cried in a parking lot when I was 10, she said. I didn't know why then. I do now. I can't watch that twice. She signed a short affidavit. Not a bombshell, just a brick. Cases are built from bricks. On the morning of the hearing, I wore a navy skirt and a white blouse that held a crease. I braided my hair the way my mother used to for church, practical, exact, like I was keeping time with my hands. Annika touched my elbow before we went in. Answer what's asked. No extra. Let the paper speak, and the room will hear. Judge Marianne Porter had kind eyes and the posture of someone who never forgot gym class. She reviewed the prenuptial agreement, underlined Clause 14b, and looked over her glasses at Thomas's attorney. "This clause is unusually clear," she said. Thomas's attorney tried to talk about evolving standards of marriage and late-in-life autonomy. Judge Porter listened, then set her pen down. "Autonomy is not a license to convert marital assets to fund an affair," she said evenly. "Temporary orders remain. Ms. Brooks retains the home, vehicle, and access to her salary. Mr. Hale, you are restrained from liquidating any assets pending valuation. It wasn't victory. It was breathing room. Sometimes that's the holiest thing in the world." In the hallway, Thomas leaned toward me. "You don't have to do this." "I already did," I said. "You just chose not to notice." He smiled, a sliver of the old charm that used to make waitresses refill his coffee without asking. "Evelyn, we're good people. We can end this with dignity. We will," I said. "In court." Part 3/4. The Room That Hears Everything. Final hearings are long days made of short sentences. Annika called me first. I told the story the way you fold a fitted sheet, awkward at the corners, but it came together. "Yes," I said. "I discovered transactions. Yes, I kept records. No, I didn't confront him at once. I wanted the truth more than a fight. Opposing counsel tried to make me cruel. Mrs. Brooks, you served papers at your son's wedding." "I filed the morning of the wedding," I corrected. "He announced his affair at the reception. He chose the stage. We introduced the messages, not all of them. 2 were enough. They weren't obscene. They were worse, mundane. Plans to tour a condo, notes about a red dress. The ordinariness of it made the room lean forward, as if everyone recognized that betrayal is not a storm. It is a schedule." Mark testified, quiet, steady. "I confronted my brother when I saw them together. He denied it. I believed my eyes," Jess followed. She didn't look at Thomas. "I process expense reports. The codes didn't match the reality. Then Annika called Renee. I hadn't expected that. Annika hadn't told me she would. Good lawyers don't warm you with every fire." Renee's lawyer objected. Judge Porter allowed limited questions. "Ms. Pike," Annika said, "did Mr. Hale reserve a suite at the Brighton Hotel in April?" Renee glanced at Thomas, then at the judge. "Yes." "Was there a client meeting?" "No." "Were you present?" A pause that felt like a decade. "Yes." No adjectives, no moral, just a nail settling into wood. Thomas's attorney spent 20 minutes on my emotional motivation. He used phrases like scorned spouse and public spectacle. Annika objected twice, sustained twice. When he asked if I was angry, I said, "I'm a woman who finished raising children into kind adults while paying a mortgage. I'm tired, and I'm done lying in closing." Annika didn't grandstand. She pointed to the clause. She pointed to the pattern. She pointed to the fact that I had not asked for a penny of his separate retirement, only what the contract provided and the law enforced. Judge Porter took a long time with her notes. When she looked up, she spoke the way surgeons do, measured, irreversible. "Marriage is a private promise. But when parties sign contracts and move money, it becomes partly a public matter. The prenuptial agreement is valid. The evidence shows sustained infidelity funded by joint assets. The remedy is clear. Ms. Brooks is awarded the marital home outright, the joint savings account, and the proceeds of the secondary brokerage in full. Mr. Hale retains his separate IRA and personal property. Spousal support is denied to Mr. Hale due to fault as defined in the contract. Cost to Miss Brooks." The room exhaled. I didn't. I watched Thomas's face, not to savor anything, to mark the moment the story changed hands. Outside, on the courthouse steps, the day looked cleaner than I remembered days could look. "Are you going to be all right?" Mark asked. "I'm going to be useful," I said. "Same thing," he replied, and smiled like a man who had finally chosen the right side of a line. Renee walked past, eyes on the pavement. She didn't owe me a look, and I didn't owe her a punishment. We are not each other's lessons. Life does that teaching with or without our help. That night I pulled the blue paint chip from the kitchen drawer where it had lived for 15 years. I set it by the toaster like a place card. Tomorrow, I told the empty room, we choose a door. Part 4/4, the blue door. Starting over at 60 looks from the outside like a montage. It isn't. It's keys that don't turn the first time, and a broom that sheds. It's a lease you read 3 times because you've learned what paper can do. It's friends showing up with a second-hand mixer and an apron that says, "Rise Again" in crooked embroidery. I rented a narrow storefront on Willow Street with a cracked bell and a window that wanted to be loved. I painted the door bluebird, the exact hue on the chip I'd kept for a decade. The first morning I turned the deadbolt, the sound felt like a sentence finishing. I named it Blue Door Baking because subtlety is for people who haven't earned their verbs. At 5 a.m., the ovens hummed to life. I made the first batch of cinnamon knots the way you make amends, with patience and sugar. By 7:30, neighbors lined up with coffee cups and stories. A retired teacher brought a newspaper clipping about her 1979 bake sale. A teenager with earbuds asked if I had anything not too sweet, the universal language of people who want to feel grown. A widower ordered 2 slices of lemon chess and told me he'd eat one here, one by the river where his wife used to read. Jacob came on Saturdays to mop and pretend he didn't see me slip a bag of rolls into his backpack. Lauren sent a postcard from campus addressed to head baker/mom with a smear of chocolate like a signature. I hung it by the register. Thomas called once. I let it go to voicemail. The transcription read, "I'm sorry, I didn't think you'd—" It cut off there, as if the sentence had run out of breath. Paper remembers, so do voicemails. I deleted it without saving, not out of anger, out of design. Some files don't belong in a clean kitchen. On a Tuesday in late fall, Judge Porter walked in with no robe and a quiet smile. "I heard the lemon tarts were honest," she said. "They're incapable of lying," I told her. "Sugar keeps its word." She bought 2 and left a tip too large to be anything but a benediction. When the lunch rush eased, I wiped the counter and watched the bell sway in an invisible breeze. The room smelled like butter and new paint and something I couldn't name that felt a lot like peace. People still ask for advice, as if I learned something portable. I tell them this: learn to read paper. Know what you've signed. Keep records not because you're fearful, but because truth deserves a spine. Don't confuse silence with weakness. Sometimes silence is a gasket. It holds the pressure while you build the engine. Choose your exit as carefully as you chose your entry. Dignity is architecture. And if you've been waiting to start the thing you tucked into a drawer for 30 years, buy the paint, name the door. On the anniversary of Jacob's wedding, he and his wife came by with a candle that smelled like orange peels and fresh bread. We ate olive oil cake in the back room on milk crates and paper plates. When they left, I locked up and stood on the sidewalk under the blue door as twilight gathered the edges of the street. I thought about the ballroom, the envelope, the hush that follows a truth you've been carrying alone. I thought about the judge's voice, the bowing of a room toward fairness, the relief of a kitchen light at 4:30 a.m. I did not think about Thomas. I went home, washed my hands, and set tomorrow's dough to rise. Some victories are loud. Mine wasn't. It was the quiet knowledge that I had built a life with the simplest tools I owned: records, patience, and the certainty that my worth was not a vote. When you finally open the right door, the bell does not shout. It sings. Evelyn.